Welcome, everybody, to another episode of A Conversation with here on Keyboard Kimura. I'm your host, E. Spencer Kite. Excited for this one. This is the one that I teased last week. We were going to do it. Travel issues got in the way. There was no way I was going to make this man do this show on no sleep after a hellacious day of travel. This weekend, he was described as the best translator in sports by no greater authority, no lesser authority, I should say, than Luke Thomas. That was co-signed by Dan Helly, who said hands down, and on top of it, he's a great dude. I co-signed both. He is UFC translator, international man of mystery, Fabiano Buskei. Thank you, my friend, for doing this. How are you?
Everything great. Thank you for the opportunity. I was in awe of the not only just the feedback of I mean just, it was on top, one thing on top of another. First, I see the tweet from Luke, and then I see Dan, and then people seconding it, and it's just like these are people that just they have a lot going for them. They have a lot of experience. They've seen. It's just like that. I think he's like is it a farmer's commercial that says we've seen a thing, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. They've seen some things and some stuff. To hear from them, it's just an honor. Obviously, I know it sounds like very samurai, but it's an honor and then a privilege. I never thought in my lifetime that I was going to have this kind of experience and this kind of success doing something like this. And just 3 years later, here I am, and I'm always very honored to actually get that kind of feedback. So I thank you for your opinion as well, because you've seen some things and some stuff.
I've seen a few things. We will get to some of the success and some of the things you've been doing and how that recognition has grown and how you've gotten to this place. But we start, as always, how and when did you fall in love with combat sports?
So, as a Brazilian, even though I'm not an American citizen as well, I'm a U.S. citizen now, was born and raised in Brazil, and especially, not just being from Brazil, but being from Curitiba. It's if there's one sport in this world, it is that there's actually one thing in this world that Curitiba will be known for on a global stage. What would it be? MMA, right? It is. It is. You hear of the days of Shooter Box. You hear of Wanderlei Silva. You hear of Anderson Silva. You hear of the Shogun brothers. It's a lot of things going on there. And there's for each Brazilian city, there's soccer, obviously, in the forefront of everything. And there's always something else, something that because of the just geography, perhaps. I mean, we have a lot of coastal cities. A lot of people surf. We've had a tradition of volleyball in certain areas, especially where they put the training centers. We have some places where a lot of people love skateboarding, and then there's basketball in certain areas. But then MMA became the same. Obviously, good old Vale Tudo, right? Everything goes. So that was the thing. And while other parts of the country were just paying attention to the sport, the second sport that they grew to be fans of, people in Curitiba were, watching some Pride,
Right.
so it goes back in the day, and it's one of the places. I mean, Rio, obviously, right? The Rio tradition, we know exactly why and the reasons. I mean, it just goes back to the Gracies and Jiu-Jitsu and that tradition there. But to go into bars and watch the UFC was a very common practice for all of us, and it goes way back. So it's actually insane that I saw so much of that nearby, and then I saw so much of that grow, meaning like it became really distant to me, and like to be involved in something like this. And then I end up in Vegas, which
Right.
what happens when you're here. Like it's like
You
if you're
can't escape
here,
this. Yeah.
you can't, and it goes to show like what some of the things that happen to me in my personal life now. People even ask me like, "Oh, do you get recognized on the street and when you're doing stuff, or you're sitting somewhere?" Or like, I do, and it's not just because of the fact that people are really nice to me, and it's a it's a very closed and very hard to go into community, but I've been really welcomed, and everyone's been so nice from the people that deal with this in the UFC, the people that are in front of the camera, behind the camera, the people that do production, and even like the fans and everyone in the media. Everyone has welcomed me a lot. But in Vegas, you if you're associated with combat sports, and it goes back to boxing, obviously, like people do recognize you
Yes.
for something they do in Las Vegas more than anywhere else. This is a mecca for it. This is the world, the capital of the universe as far as combat sports, right? So it's pretty insane to go and to be here now and to walk around. I was like, oh my god, this place breathes combat sports, and obviously MMA and particularly the UFC.
So as a child growing up, you and I are the same age, so by no means is this a like, hey, back when you used to be young. As you're growing up though in Curitiba, where it's huge, it's growing, it's blossoming, it's
So much.
as
Yeah.
you said, everybody that is everybody at a time is coming from there. How
Yeah.
much are you not necessarily involved, but are you, a teenager watching, going to events, or is it just that it's immersive because it's around you that you can't help but know who all of these people are and see some of it?
Half. There's the fact that it is around you, to the fact that you're in bars and they're showing. I mean, they're bars that were not showing any sports. Actually, they still had combat sports from overseas showing, but you see them there as well. I mean, there are many times in which I was just running in the park back at home, and I used to bike around a certain park that we have there that's famous, and Vanderlei Silva was running. So which is
Right.
insane too, because it's there. Also, there's a shift in perception, something that the UFC has retaught me and or taught me in a deeper way. I think we need to understand how nice people in combat sports are.
Right. Yeah.
There's obviously a perception that these people are wired different. They are. They're wired differently, but they get a lot of stuff out of their system. They beat the crap out of a lot of things, including people. Meaning that there's a piece to them, and there's a niceness that it's and it kind of reminded me of the interactions I had again at the park. Just Wanderlei Silva was always smiling at people.
Right.
That's a
right. That
like I've
moment
been
in
to
the
bar- I've
cage,
been to
the
bars
moment
like-
in the cage, he looks like a lunatic, and he looks like the nickname, the Axe Murderer. But then when you see him elsewhere, or you meet him even in the UFC days, but I'm sure before that as well, gracious with his time,
very much so,
wonderfully warm and engaging individual who isn't sitting there, standing there talking to you, doing the hand roll,
Yeah.
thinking about ways to decapitate you. He's
Yes,
hanging
which
out
again,
and wanting to be a good person.
Let's get this out of the way. He could,
Yes.
but he chooses not to,
Yes.
and we're very appreciative of the fact that he chooses not to. Is already, but it's insane, because I've been to places that like stuff just kind of was getting heated. I mean, people obviously listen, Brazil, late at night. We don't have much curfew. We always go out very late. Places I used to go to went very, very late, very bohemian life. I mean, when people talk about Vegas, I mean, just chill, all right? Like, I'm sorry, you guys don't know what 24 hours is. Even Vegas doesn't know what 24 hours is. You just know the lights are on at 24 hours. But us is like the people are on 24 hours. There's a different thing. Oh yeah, this place, the establishment is open. Yeah, great. Let me tell you when the people are open for business very late. So I've been to bars and dudes get macho after a certain time, and you start with a good old shoulder bump. It's I was always the type of guy that's like touching people, going, "Oh man, just let me go through here." I was always that kind of person to try to be. First of all, I'm not going to get into a fight. All right, this is it. I'm not going to get into. You don't want to do that. But some people get very. I guess the testosterone goes up a notch as they drink and as the night progresses. And they're some of the fighters that I'm talking about were the calmest people in the building.
Right.
They're like, no, what's going on? I've actually seen them. Some of the large dudes go, what's going on? Just chill. Let's go each our separate ways. And it's actually, that was a fascinating thing. It's just kind of changed my perception as well.
Yeah.
And then even like, I've had a life in like football as well, and um, in a major university, obviously Penn State for 2 or 4 years when I was in college, we were ranked number one in the nation, and football players are just like the nicest people. They're cool. I mean, they go through a lot to be in a Division I school and play in a Big Ten. So just like they're the coolest people. So that's a change of perception from someone that is not from there. I wasn't by no means an athlete of high level, a high performing athlete at any point in my life.
So when did you figure out that you had a fascination with languages, that you were good with language, that words and dialect was something that piqued your interest?
I'm very young. I'm from the family itself. I mean, just like many people in southern Brazil, we have somewhat of a European descent. I come from half of the family has a Ukrainian Austrian background, and the other side of the family is northern Italy background with a little bit of Polish in there. That just immigrated. So that I got exposed to English first of all. I fell in love with football at a very young age, right? So let's get that out of the way.
We'll get to football. We'll get to when did you and why did you and how did you and why the Eagles and all of these questions.
I know, yeah, because well, I'm a nice person, but I guess I'm not that nice. I'm an English fan. So, but the thing is, just I heard languages in the household, not from like curiously, not for the Italian side of the family, all eating related, like all the like food and just stuff for my grandma. She's like 92 now, so like I've gone through the entire phase of her cooking for a battalion. But my late dad's side, they spoke Ukrainian. They actually, my grandparents yelled at each other in Ukrainian. So the fight, it was funny. That was pretty hilarious. And I just thought it was, first of all, it's a little club, right? You speak another language, you're in another place. It's like, that feeling of pride a lot of us have. I think that some of the people that are more intellectually, I want to say, curious, there's a sense of pride in getting inside jokes and references. Like there's a thing, like I got this, and I thought that was pretty cool. Exclusivity, just the originality of it all. I and this is I think I haven't gotten to this conversation with anybody ever since I started doing this, and people ask me questions and brought me on board for shows, but when I was a kid, I went to, I mean, it was there was the school that I went to. There's an Orthodox Catholic, semi-Orthodox Catholic Ukrainian church associated with the school, right, like across the street. So we did stuff there, and they asked me, and I'm not kidding you, they asked us to learn a little bit of Ukrainian and to actually put the gear, just put some traditional clothing. So you got the white shirt with like almost no collar here with the little things, patterns coming down to there. Very well embroidered. And we were to say a couple of sentences. Okay, and I think this is my first recollection of BSing people correctly. It was a special day, and when we went there and we did the presentation, and when I was supposed to say my thing, I memorized it really well. I validated it with the nuns to see if I was saying the right thing, and I put my hand on my heart, and I just went like this, and just like went kind of deep and did stuff like this. There were older gentlemen and ladies, I mean the OGs of the OGs, that they were crying and emotional. I thought I was like 8, man, or something. And they said that was beautiful, and it took them back to the homeland, because of the way that I actually said it. The sentence itself was pretty powerful. I knew what it meant. So I was like, oh my God, this has a meaning. This is very interesting. Unfortunately, that wasn't a thing for that side of the family to teach. They taught the women. So my two aunts who ended up in Philly, they were kind of raised to be nuns. So they were just, the men, no, like you're going out to the world. So my dad didn't speak Ukrainian. My uncle didn't, but the two aunts, they came to America, married Ukrainian Americans, and they had two daughters each and flew around Northeast Philadelphia. So they ended up like just this. The ecosystem, by the way, when I came to Philly a couple of times, it was all like Ukrainian American. So that was like a thing, right? Well, and then it got me in the sports part. When very young and just shortly after that, I watched. They had just like they had the ABC Wide World Sports here.
Right.
People know that there was a channel in Brazil. One of them was very responsible. Now they do have the UFC in Brazil on the contract. Now it's called Band, right? Bandeirantes. They were called the sports channel. They called themselves, it was network television, but they had sports all day. They had the sports show. I'm not going to even go into the Portuguese saying of this, but they used to. Sports show was like all Sunday morning. It's all Sunday from like U23, whatever soccer in the morning, all the way to like highlights and condensed versions of soccer games after the main ones at 4 p.m. Like it, and one of the directors there was famously like a Miami Brazilian kind of guy, loved Miami, so he brought a lot of American sports to Brazil, like to the masses. Another channel had the Gillette World of Sports or something like that, World Sports Special or something like that. It was like a thing that they just imported, and it had like all sports in the world. And the intros got me. The fact that like they use music. What was the difference between? They always go back to ESPN, right? What is the biggest thing that ESPN brought in 1979 and when the first Sports Centers happened? It's like, wait, the highlights have music.
Right.
This was a game changer. People, these young generations, they don't know what they mean. Everybody, it's easy to crap on every channel. It's like, you don't understand what this is.
Right.
Like,
all of a sudden.
Yes. Like, we're used to seeing these boring highlights that look like local TV for the most part back in the day. And then all of a sudden you see this one major sports network give you highlights with like music. What's going on? Like now it's like part of it. Look at the intros. They get you when you're young, you're from overseas, and like, oh my God, this is like, it's not even just a Monday Night Football one. I'm talking about like sometimes they would put like some, like I still think that to this day, the best sports song ever was the NFL on TNT intro from the early 90s. He had saxophone in the back. It was sexy, all right? Let me get you. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh my God, I recorded it on VHS and I kept rewinding it for many times. I have it saved now because someone put on YouTube.
Nice.
I have that. That stuff attracts you. And then you realize that you like the words and you like the way that like football is a different sport. And I really think that like football is the one sport that, and I speak American. Let me get this out of the way. I speak American English. I had to make this comment on Twitter today. I speak American English. So I'm already a Brazilian that speaks Spanish from an Italian family.
Right.
You don't get to tell me what I need to call soccer. All right. Oh, it's football. Oh, fuck. I know. My bloodlines have 9 World Cups. Do you really want me to go over how much soccer I've watched in my life? I live here. It's called U.S. Soccer. It's right there. It's right. Can I just chill? If I spoke British English, I would definitely say football and American football, but I don't. It's football, man. So I just football got me, and I think it's one of the sports that you really it pays to learn the language. Like you understand it. You're like, it's just fascinating. There's so much to it that the language has got me there. And my cousins from Philly sent me I was already learning English. It's something that my dad and my mom really want me to do. Don't hide it. Been very privileged with my education. Had the opportunity to learn the language. But you have to find a passion, right?
Right.
I once failed believe it or not, I failed one English semester in the English school. And people are like, why? Hold up. What had happened was it was during the 90 World Cup. You are asking me that the teachers were mad at me. And they actually let me, then when I passed it, they let me skip the level that I had missed because I'm like, this is for you. This is for your understanding of you what you need to do. All right. You speak English. You are good at this, but you didn't prepare for
Right.
the classes because it was during the World Cup in 1990. My first full World Cup of watching all the games. I haven't missed a World Cup game since I was a kid. Like I watch all 64, and then 48 before. So like I've watched them all. Like yeah, I missed it. But the language was there, and I realized that like okay, I like you have to find a passion. So when I found a passion, and it's American sports, it was late 80s, early 90s NBA. I just thought it was just interesting to know it in English. Again, is the whole
Right.
club thing. Like, this is a club that I'm belonging to here. This I understand this more. I
Right.
understand the inside joke.
Right.
And I always thought it was very dynamic. English is perfect for sports. It's just amazing. It's just so it sounds great. I recall from name, likeness, and moment, like most of the NFL flagship radio station voices. I've talked to
Right.
people from Minneapolis, and all of a sudden, like, what do you mean you know Paul Allen? Is like, yeah. Like I talked to Bulls fans that like, yeah, man, I miss Wayne Larivee, like because he's doing
Right.
the Packers. It's like, how do you know this? It's like you don't understand. This means something to me. All right. I like voiceovers. I like voices. I think it adds to the thing. It adds to the spectacle. So I fell in love with the language really. Like English was like the first one. I'm like, oh my god, this sounds good. It wasn't music, so a lot of people were like, oh, music. I had no music background. Like we're not a musical family. Like by no, we weren't. Music came for Spanish. Like, it really got me because of the rhythm. I need
Right.
beats. Like, yeah, I'm not a lyrics guy. I couldn't care less for lyrics. The beats. Like, oh my god, Latino music. That's how I learned Spanish. That's my catalyst for Spanish and people. As you grow older, you realize that, and this is the full circle from that Ukrainian situation until now. Languages bring you closer to people. Languages bring you closer to cultures. They will take you to places and open doors, and even just a window of opportunity that you have never perhaps experienced. You expand things. It's like about taste. Like people talk about, oh, you need to watch this, you need to watch that. Like you don't understand. I'm stimulated by a lot of different languages and countries. So when people say, like even watching certain sports, oh, paying attention to like the NBA regular season, like you're asking too much. You're asking. Soccer asks too much of me, so I
Right.
don't watch the championships. Like I will watch if like Man City was going to face Arsenal and then have like perhaps a crossover towards the end last week of the Premier League, maybe for that for something, right? For you to
Right.
watch something. The last weekend of the Bundesliga, some crazy stuff happened. Let's watch that. I'm beyond, but don't ask me to watch 1/38 of a championship every week and tell me the same thing as the football
Right.
or MMA. I cannot do
Right.
that. It's hard, right?
Neither can I anymore. Once I got into this, so you're speaking my language 100% here, because once I got fully immersed into this, once this started being not just passion as a fan, but the thing that I was doing and wanting to get better at, you can't tell me that I need to go and watch the 38th game of an 82 game season in hockey. Or I mean, basketball held me for a long time and still can pull me in for regular season games when it's certain players and whatever. But like baseball,
very hard. And this is a generational problem they're going to have to face. But I
right.
think some of the key things that you said, the first thing is not anymore.
Right.
Second, not doing this. And the third thing is immersed.
Yeah.
When you have those three things, we're describing adulting here. I have a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I've worked in the past 3 months an average of 10 hours a week with the UFC. Like on average. Okay. Even like with cars that I wasn't working for something, but on average, that actually the past month was 15 hours. So, okay, this is solid hours, charge hours to the UFC, like that actually worked. You know, like it wasn't just there's just the travel or being around there.
This
It's like
is
that
the
I actually
actual like working. Yeah.
yes, you try to be as I mean, you're honest with like the time that you're working. It's not like it was trying to helping people or something like that. That's actually charged.
Right.
So it's you look at that and like, oh my God, that's a lot. And then there's your passions. First of all, if you gotta work out. We have to eat. We have to sleep. We have to take showers. We have to hydrate. We have to have our own time. Can I watch a movie once in a while or a documentary? Can I, again, the eating? Can I sit down once in a while without watching any content? I have to, I like to walk around Vegas. So let me take a walk one of these days. But no, absolutely no, nothing on my mind. The times that you were sitting down and socializing with people, we could talk for hours. It's like you add that up, and then if you have a significant other, if you have a family, if you have a pet to take care of, you have a house, okay, have a commute, or have to go for a place a couple of hours. If you have all those things, what I've said to many people is like we only have 100% of our attention, 100% of our time, 100% of our effort, 100% of our focus. There's no such thing as 110%. There's no 110%. We have 100%. Use it wisely. And I know, funny thing, my day has 24 hours. I'm assuming yours as well. My week is just 7 days, and our years basically have 365 days, 52 weeks, right? So there's nobody with a 26-hour day or a 60-week year. We have a limited amount of time and space. The more you have to worry about other things, the less you can worry about others. And then for the past 3 years, I go for every single fight and I watch every single fight because if I'm not working a card, I'm checking stuff out. And then you start seeing when was the comments are made during interviews, right? The production interviews, they may be asked of before the card, especially afterwards in a post-fight interview, because that's a kind of a dire moment. You're there, right? I don't get to ask questions except for like when of course the fighter just goes off and says something that neither I or Bisping understand. So we have to look at each other and go, what? But if that doesn't happen, someone's mentioning rankings, someone's mentioning the last. I mean, even like the interview was mentioning a loss that happened. So I try to watch the fights from the fighters, just like they have to prepare. Try to understand. During press conferences at whether it's at the Apex or somewhere else, when they're interviewing people, it's very common to mention previous fights and things that happen. So that takes, and it was a learning process too, a learning process of what I need to know, when, how often, and it just for information. And then you start getting passionate about it. And here you're having discussions about rankings and matchmaking, and you catch yourself doing it's insane because I was always a sucker for like realignment, like college football realignment, like with the NFL realigned divisions, like matchups at towards the end. If they'll play a wild card there, oh God, even listen, I'm a sucker for Sunday Night Football flex procedures.
Oh, it's great.
Right? It's
give
just
me the most important games. Give me
a couple of weeks before. I'm like,
real meaning.
There's a possibility here. Fox going to protect his game. CBS going to protect his game. They might pick this one. Oh, like we're idiots. We're nerds. That's what we 100%. Are. Yes. So whenever we're talking about rankings, we're like, yeah, but what about now? What would be better for the UFC? And I'm not Sean Shelby. I'm not Mick Miney. I'm not any of them. But everybody tries to play them, right? It's like, yeah, we should. And it's actually a pretty cool experience to actually be there next to the octagon and see Sean and Mick there when the fight is like really good and the matchmaking was amazing. Yeah, it's like they're like, yes, like it worked. It came to fruition. Right. But it's about time, and I'm there all the time. I live for the Apex.
So you mentioned in there, and there's a lot to unpack in there. You mentioned a full-time job, and we don't have to go into the detail of it, but you do have a full-time day job, as we will call it. We'll throw up the scare quotes.
Yeah.
How do you find any sort of balance in life in between those two things, in between being as ridiculously prepared for your part-time freelance gig that takes up a lot of time, and also just life?
It's hard. Okay. I used to live in Orlando. Orlando's a second home to me, and forever will be a second home to me, no matter um, where I am. I consider even like Orlando to be more of a second home to me than even my hometown. I was there in plenty different voluntarily. I went to Orlando. It's like friends after 30 years old and over 30, like you kind of pick and choose them. So I chose Orlando back when I was a young adult. Um, I had a different quality of life there, and I had different things that I really enjoyed doing that I had to do that I got to do there that I always do there that I don't get to do here. So obviously there's a trade off, but I would say that you have to be, first of all, I'm very grateful for the opportunity I had here. I'm grateful for the job that I had and the industry that I've been to. I've been in the travel industry for quite some time. It's something that, again, it just adds fuel to the fire of the languages and demographics and people and cultures. And it's just, I think there's an intrinsic value of bringing and of travel, with so much out there being like so, commercially aggressive out there. You can be numbers focused in the world of travel distribution and feel that there's something good in what you're doing, which is, it's not something that a lot of people can say about other sales oriented or business oriented jobs. um, I Obviously time management is a big thing, and you just have to pick your spots. And I don't have it. Again, there are certain areas of my life that I don't have certain responsibility. Would I have the same amount of time if I had a child? Would I have the same amount of time as if I was married? I don't know. Most likely not as much,
Right.
and I'll probably have to hear a couple things.
Maybe you would, but it wouldn't be going well on those two fronts.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Or it would not be going well when the ones that, or it wouldn't have, it
Or
wouldn't
the
have
work wouldn't be going as well.
got traction in
These
the
are
ones that you
all
mentioned. So I'm always connected to my full-time job because I like it, and it's because there are no hours. Like I'm the one in the West Coast. I work in travel distribution. So basically our company is the leading travel and tech company in the distribution space for B2C, B2B. So we actually provide. You can go to an online travel agency and buy any component of travel. You can buy your hotels, you can buy the flights, you can buy bundled stuff, bundled product. We provide them hotel inventory. We provide credit card companies that you all know, any bank or any credit card company that has a hotel pack, the hotel as a component of travel. It's very hard to source hotels. It's very hard to go and contract every single hotel in the book. We have 300,000 hotels contracted. So it's every company is a technology company now. But this is what we do. So the bank, the credit card, the online travel agency, the specific travel agency. You want to do bungee jumping in New Zealand, and obviously that's the future of the travel agent is that, right? Be more curated. That's a word that everybody loves now.
Right.
Curated. Yes, this is more catered to an audience, whether it's family, whether it's singles, whether it's adventure, whether it's like, I don't know, you wanna take your dog to do a dog park somewhere in Europe. All right, there's that too. You want to do a full on eating experience in Italy. That's the travel agent. There's rewards programs as well. There's corporate travel. All of those, they have to source hotels. And the company they work for, Hotel Beds, is one of the biggest sources for that. It's a very understanding company as well, in the sense that most of us are remote. Being the one guy in the West Coast of an entire team of people that are pretty much our headquarters in the United States are in Orlando. The company is from Spain, so people are traveling all over the world, and whatever happened with the pandemic actually changed a lot, especially because I've been in the tech, some of the tech part of it all. I'm always on a computer, so I'm okay in the laptop. Like I don't even know how to deal with the desktop anymore. And to tell you the truth, I have a very hard time watching TV on a TV set because I'm always like, I'm always on iPads. Like I'm on tablet. Like I've I've watched the NFL on a tablet. I've had access to all the games and whatever package it is Game Pass International, Sunday Ticket, forever. So I have pretty much set up shop, whether it was at a coffee shop, restaurant, a beach, a place, but I'm there.
Laptop and tablet, and
There
that's
you go. That's
okay.
and I navigate well. So some people at work have been asking me like, why are you in your calls on your phone? Well, my phone is always in the stand right next to me. The computer's here. This is the screen that I work with. I ask them, you're at home, right? Yes, with your family, right? With your kids, with your dog. And let me guess, you have a second screen. Yes. Well, and I'm looking at you from the side, and I've been looking at you for years from the side. The only difference is my first screen is my phone, my second screen is my laptop. And that's just, you get used to it.
Right.
I asked for this. Be careful what you wish for. I've always wanted to travel. I've always wanted to work in
Right.
travel. I always wanted to speak languages. I always wanted to work with sports and television in some capacity and have variety. Well, I got it.
There you
Now,
go.
man up, get
Yeah.
8 hours of sleep, drink your fluids, eat your fruit and drink your vegetables and do that kind of stuff.
Okay, we'll get back to work stuff here in a minute, but we gotta knock off a couple of these important things that I need clarification on.
Okay.
So why
I need
why the Philadelphia Eagles?
I guess I'm an asshole.
Of all the teams, why the Eagles? Because as I said, you and I are about the same age, I believe, 40, 44. Not to give away your age, I apologize.
I'm 45. I just turned 45.
Just turned
so
40. Correct. I was around.
No, but
I was
I'm
around
just saying,
at your birthday.
I just respect your elders. I just want to say it.
I'll be there at the end of October. It's fine. You're not that much of an elder. I mean, of all the teams, we're the same age. Eagles for a number of years back when I was, teen getting into football.
Yeah.
Some good defenses. Randall Cunningham were interesting, but we didn't quite get where we want to go. What was it about them that made them a team?
So what happened was, again, there was a little bit of a connection just from knowing, and just from the recall part. Family that ended up in Northeast Philly, so I knew of them. Thought it was a pretty cool logo, nickname, and everything else. But then, obviously, right away, there was getting to know make the decision, right? So one of the first things that I saw, like images of football, all right, and just that whole thing was just the imagery of football, the sensitive experience, the experience of watching it having it in front of me. It was the Fog Bowl. So you get the Fog Bowl and you're like, oh, what game was this? But again, like one of those shows that show like in football, this
right, that gives you
this happen. So the shows this guy running around, had 400 yards, and yet the team didn't score like 12 points. Randall Cunningham. And then obviously start watching a little bit, and just the defense is nasty. And that's one of the biggest differences between American sports and other sports, no matter where in the world. I don't recall. Of course, you could talk about like Switzerland soccer for back in the day, or like Italy. They always had this thing with the defense, right? But I mean, again, just I don't know. All right, there were big Italian strikers. There's right. No culture that if Italians cared that much about defense, we wouldn't be like that when we go out and talking to people. All right, we are right. We're very forward. All right, so we're not that much defensive. The fact that in American sports, defense was such a big thing. Like, I loved watching Jordan steal. I thought it was a skill getting into passing lanes, just nagging an opponent, taking the ball away, knowing the timing of it. I always thought it was an art. Even when you're playing video games now, we're back. Obviously, we're going to date ourselves again when we're playing our 8-bit to 16-bit video games. Blocking was hard, man. Blocking stealing was hard. I mean, it was a kind of like a sense of pride and pleasure when we got steals in
again. It's a timing thing.
Remember Lakers versus Celtics, like Bulls versus Lakers, and all that stuff. Then we got when we actually stole the ball. There you go. It was like a thing. football is the ultimate defensive sport.
Right.
It's an entire unit. And I think that the most beautiful moment in sports, all sports, is a pick six. The frustration on an entire there's a whole pretty boy side of the quarterback. There's an expectation. There's an entire like a mindset if you go through a drive and it's just building up this crescendo, which was going to be a score, and all of a sudden Deion Sanders, or was it in my case it was Eric Gallen, or
Right.
eventually Mr. Ed Reed, coolest man alive. It is
Absolutely.
all these people. They got it. I love defensive backs. That was the thing that I was like, wow, that you get to frustrate.
Right.
You're not expected to do this, and
Everything is tailored against you. All the rules now are made for protect the quarterback, build the offense, and then you get to be that guy that's like,
boom,
we're going this way for 6.
There you go. And I just thought it was amazing. I thought it just an entire statement. And then a pick six and a home for the home team.
Right.
It's just a momentum building thing, which is
right.
And it's insane. It turns the game around. It turns the dynamic of the game. So I just thought it was fascinating. That Eagles defense was lovely. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, you look at every single one of those. There are books written about the 92 Eagles, which was just a culmination of those 88, 89, 90 Eagles. That's when it was my formative years in English football, sports, culture, and I got to see something that a very wise man that actually devised the product. He's from Canada. I used to work for a company from a product that was a company right outside of Toronto, Belleville, and he lived in Whistler because it's cool like that. This man, very smart, said, he was talking about my life. He always thought I did cool things. And he always said, hey, I think you're going to do much more in your life. And he said, but it's going to take a long time. I said, why? Because it seems that some things matter to you. And when it matters to you, it takes a long time. It's going to be hard. Don't give up on it. But it matters, right? So going back to the Eagles, that defense, the Washington beats Buffalo. Great Washington team. The Lions were in the NFC Championship game. How far back is that? Then following year, the Bills. I'm sorry, actually, let's go back. The first Super Bowl that I watched live. Okay, this is just for context. First Super Bowl I watched live, Eternal, Super Bowl 25. Right, just beauty. I still watch once a year. I watch like the NFL film special, like the 30-minute, the music of NFL films, just the drive. That was that time killing drive to keep the Bills off the field. That was just the first drive in the third quarter. So they beat them on a field goal, a miss, whatever. There you go, with a backup quarterback. That can happen again. Then goes Washington, great team. Same thing, frustrates the Eagles in the season. Then the Cowboys come back, and I have to put up with that stuff. It's like, because that year, obviously, Cowboys started to kill my early adolescenthood, right?
Right.
And then it's time. The Giants win. The Washington football franchise at the time wins, followed by the Cowboys being back, and I have to put up with that. And then it's time for the Eagles. We are 3-0 going to New York. And Randall Cunningham breaks his fibula in tibia. Eric Allen has the most beautiful pick six ever, like a 94-yard touchdown. He ran for like 160. Hugs Randall. That's on crutches in the other end zone where he wins. The Eagles win, if I'm not mistaken, a 35-31 score or something of the sort. And that we finished that season 8-8. And I'm, as a sports fan, we're nuts. We call it we. I had no
100%. Yeah.
We. That's it. We. And frustration started mounting. So, and you think, okay, and then Randall, my idol, and then goes those Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb teams. And it's like, okay, we made it against the Rams. Nobody, and we had them, but we lost. And they stay on the field. Say, next year, we're going to take this to Philly. Don't go to St. Louis. We bring it to Philly. And then the Rondé Barber game. They closed the coffin on the vet. Next year's like, hey, new stadium then. That's the problem with the stadium. Let's bring Carolina in. Freaking Ricky Manning Jr. 3 interceptions. We lose to them. Then all right, and then we don't make
Ricky Manning Jr., who never had any other moments other than that 3 interception game.
Never. Not sorry. It
got
happens,
a
right?
huge deal from the Bears, I believe, afterwards, and just fell off the face of the earth.
And then it could have been us against the Patriots. Everybody thought, okay, this is it. Everybody wanted Eagles Steelers to be a Super Bowl, and the Steelers kept crapping about against the Patriots. Well, the Eagles go out there, they beat Michael Vick and the Falcons, and we're going. And then 3 fumbles, actually three turnovers we had inside of the Patriots territory, and again, the Patriots beat a team by 3. And that was Jacksonville. That was my memory. I had to make amends with Jacksonville going back for the first time there in a long time. So I just kind of like, yeah, we're done with this. Okay. I don't hold you against, like, I had a problem with Jacksonville for a long time. I'm not going back to the city. And then we go back. We were like, 2008, same thing. What's going on? Like, we have a crappy year. We go to Baltimore. The McNabb gets pulled. Kevin Kolb throws like 106-yard intercept, pick 6 to Ed Reed, and then we go on our roll. We start by beating the Cardinals on Thanksgiving. We win. We beat the Giants, with the Vikings, and then we go NFC Championship game. We're trailing 24-6, and we're up 25-24, and then Kurt Warner to Fitzgerald. So they've built the fan base for you. It was a microscope of what the Eagles are. They go to the NFC Championship game, let us down, come all the way back up, give us pride, only to lose at the end. So do you understand that I do not have, again, never got married, don't have no children. I would have a cat because it's independent and it cleans itself and stuff.
Right.
All right. They're pretty cute and funny. All right. And smart, but no pets. My family's 5,000 miles away. My friends are scattered across the galaxy like freaking Autobots on the run.
You've got the Eagles.
And then, I mean, that's what I had. So February 4th, 2018. Beautiful. Next day, I was still a annual pass holder for Disney. There I was. I was at the Magic Kingdom with a bunch of degenerates, one of the most beautiful days in Magic Kingdom history. And then we just saw Nick Foles in the parade. So I was like, oh my God. It was a culmination of a lot of things for me, Spencer. I want you to know, I was a cast member for Disney 5 separate times. I went back to be a cast member at 35 years old. And that was what gave me the opportunity to come back to the United States the year afterwards on a job offer, unrelated to Disney, but related to a friend. Just because I was there. And I knew I was done with like being a Disney annual pass holder. I could go to the parks any day. I love theme parks, but there was a thing. I mean, it's become very professional to be a tourist at Disney now. I was back in the day that you could work your fast passes and do a park in a day. We Brazilians are famous for, like, we used to say we finished the park. We do the park. We aced this thing. We knew, like, any better other race, color, or creed. We knew this. Disney was our thing. Can't do it anymore because the system will block you from things. It was a different. So I got the golden age of being a tourist at Disney. When I was about to be done with my annual pass and not to renew anymore because I knew I was gonna, eventually let me take a break from this. The Eagles won the Super Bowl and I'm there, and I'm like, this is the culmination. I'm on a Monday afternoon. I'm at the Magic Kingdom thinking, yep, following a crowd saying, just. It was great.
Watching a backup quarterback have the greatest moment of his life.
Listen.
Second greatest. Greatest was the day before, but
listen, here we go. This man had a 27 touchdown, 2 interception season.
Terrific.
For all the Raiders fans out here in Las Vegas, suck it in the sense that he scored 7 touchdowns. Him and Peyton Manning, like, I actually went to the Hall of Fame. One year I just took a trip, and actually on the way back I stopped in Cleveland, went to Canton. So Peyton Manning and Nick Foles is 2 full uniforms were there because they he threw against Baltimore in an opening game. I think it was one that got delayed because of lightning. And then Nick Foles threw 7 touchdown passes in a game, an NFL game with professionals. Granted, it was the Oakland Raiders of the Coliseum, but still professionals. It was a bad Raiders moment, let's say. But he threw it. There were this man. He had the Eagles actually up on playoff games, and we ended up losing. I think it's very invaluable. I've loved Jalen Hurts since day one back in Alabama. I think people need to acknowledge more what it means to actually have a quarterback that is not the fault of the defense, but it's just a factor as a sub-product of the game. You actually led your team to a lead. You did your part at that time.
Right.
So Nick Foles did this in a playoff game. All right. So he comes back and does that. I mean, I remember the Falcons game, man. That was he basically threw a pick and it just two guys just bumped into each other and they passed towards the end of the half. And it was magical. And the following year, Alshon Jeffrey doesn't catch the ball. We could have been the Saints, come back in there. This man has and I was happy for him. And by the way, before he went to Jacksonville, because Jacksonville, he throws a beautiful touchdown pass in week 1 and gets injured.
Right.
He got that contract. The pass was beautiful. Oh my
gorgeous,
God.
Gorgeous throw.
But it's a great story, and it's a very Philly-like. And now we couldn't have a more Philly quarterback, man. My man crush is Jalen Hurts, man. That's it.
He's good.
That's it.
Top
boy, 3 coolest people ever. That's it.
As Grant Dawson wanted people to say over the weekend, that boy's good. You can't throw "I was a cast member for Disney" out there as just a throwaway line in a story and not expect me to sit here and be like, all right, elaborate. Give me the details on that.
First and foremost, being a cast member for Disney means you work for Disney. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. There's something called Disneyese, which is the language of Disney. All right, so I was not a cast member for Disney Entertainment. I was a cast member, meaning I was an employee of the Walt Disney Company at the theme parks. Okay. I started. Some people ask me about what, sometimes you have to make some situations happen. I was working for Penn State Hospitality Services. I tried to get a job in a different field that I was doing. I guess I have somewhat of an experience of doing that, trying to get a second gig. That's something that's unrelated to my main thing. And I went to school for public relations and advertising. Eventually got a minor in marketing just to understand, because it's easy to be in communications and understand the business side. So I've always wanted to have that. Okay. Then Penn State is known for a great hotel restaurant management school, and Penn State Hospitality Services owned the Nittany Lion Inn and was just getting the Penn State Scantacon aboard, being the Penn State Conference Center. So we had a beautiful inn on campus right behind the Nittany Lion statue by Rec Hall, good old Rec Hall, and where basketball games were in the 90s. And then this is on campus, and they had an entire conference center hotel 3 miles away from campus towards after Beaver Stadium. So I got to work on those, and I got that experience that I think is invaluable for anyone. Work behind a counter in your life, whether it's with food and beverage. I can't, because I would eat and drink the stock. I cannot deal with that. I cannot be in food and beverage. I would just be a bohemian forever, or might as well just, Red Bull and that's it. I cannot do, I wouldn't be a server, because I've always thought that I was more on the host side. I didn't want to work retail either. Just that it's a choice. But I said I will I will work double the hours if it's in guest service. I think it's something that brings very invaluable skills. I saw when I was working the front desk and helping out with the departments, I saw that we were short-staffed, and I always looked to see who was checking in that day and the companies that they were checking in from, because the company was mentioned in our system in the folio. So I would check by company, the corporate reservation, and I saw if it was a company that interested me, I wanted to make sure that I was there for the check-in and create situations, man.
Right.
Listen, we all have our references, right? Wasn't there a movie with Melanie Griffith that she was like that she makes it in the city or something and goes from like being an assistant secretary to having a corner office back in the day?
Is it Working Girl?
Yes, I do. Yes, I didn't want to say Working Girl because it's a great title, but if I said
But it
Working,
also sounds, yeah.
yes, because I'm in Vegas. So if the guy from Vegas
Right.
says Working Girl, I was like,
Fair
no, I
enough.
think you have this wrong. But isn't it is Working Girl, right?
I think so.
The references can come from anywhere, and I think it's very important. Some of the very important things that think about this. This was back in the day. I was very young, and it's very important to understand that references can come from people younger than you, from women when you're in a male-dominated sports. I mean, how cool was it that Diego Lopez and Alessandro Costa a couple of weeks ago, they talked to each other right before, and they during the interview, he said, "I just want you guys to understand that I trained with Alexa Grassa and Aldana, and people don't give him credit for this. They beat the crap out of me. We beat the crap out of each other, right? So it's awesome. I mean, this is a movie about there's no alpha male, there's no Wall Street kind of approach, no finance, no nothing, no sports reference. This is not Rocky. Go make situations happen in that movie. I was always fascinated by that because you can make situations. I'm not believe you. Listen, you can make a lot of things. A lot of life is a subproduct of what was given to you. But with the stuff that you can control, you can create moments. And she had an issue that she actually needed a suite to. She was going to have to conduct interviews for advanced internships, which I eventually would have one with Disney in the future. But she wanted to have a room in the room. She wondered if we had that set up so she could have the interviews in the separate.
I got you.
We had that set up. And I was like, don't you worry. Even like the manager, like, oh my God, would you be able to help out? I was like, oh, yes. I went to the room, carried luggage and everything. I'm in the elevator with her. She sees my name tag and goes, Fabiano. It's an Italian name. Where are you from? I was like, I'm actually from Brazil. He goes, oh, in your country, they speak Portuguese. And so you're fluent? It's like, yes. And congratulations, because this was the 90s, right? I had to commend somebody for actually knowing that we speak Portuguese in Brazil. Some people were still thinking that we're capital of Brazil's Buenos Aires. And she goes, well, it's pretty awesome that you what is your knowledge of Brazil, right? Unbeknownst to her, I knew she was from Disney. She goes, actually, the company that I work for really needs people that speak Portuguese. Do you speak Spanish as well? And as a matter of fact, I had rediscovered myself as a Latino recently, and I really made a choice about like restudying Spanish, getting it, talking to just my friends were all Latinos in school, and so as a matter of fact, I do, and I'm becoming more proficient for it. I'm actually going to get certification. And she goes, "Would you like to work for Disney?" So she said, there's a seminar tonight. It's going to be a formality. You come over here. It's right across the street at the Hotel Restaurant Management School where Disney had their presentations. And it was a presentation for the Walt Disney World College program. And I actually went down to Puerto Rico, actually. Again, it was part of my Latino rediscovery. So I had, some things to do in Puerto Rico. So I enjoyed myself in Puerto Rico for like a week. And right after that, I went to Orlando. Still remember the first day. Still remember the day before. Checked into Vista Way, which now a place that a lot of people can stay. Apparently, they turned it into a apartment complex. But Vista Way was the main apartment complex out of 4 that Disney had in Lake Buena Vista. 4 people from the world for the college program, and cut to a couple years later, I had done 4 or 5, well, 3 or 3 at that time programs with Disney. I chose Disney to be back to my optional practical training. I actually was doing it for credit to be able to work off campus as a foreigner. You have to actually do it as a class. So I was pretty much paid a part of it to work for Disney, worked extra hours as much as possible. After college, my curricular practical training was there as well. Worked in different departments, Magic Kingdom Guest Relations, Disney Cruise Line Human Resources. I worked with Coronado Springs in the conference center, which is actually one of the largest, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the second largest in Florida behind Orange County Convention Center. And there is when I discovered translations, real-time problem solving, meeting people from different cultures, understanding a certain side of audience speaking, public relations that's needed. Like you're talking to people and the family, you see the ID, you see where they're from to resolve the gas situation. They're from Cleveland. You talk some Browns, you talk some, you talk baseball back in the day because I got through. I mean, that's when they were actually made it to the World Series a couple times. You talk things, you have references, you have the Hall of Fame and just been building stuff. So you talk about these things. You talk about some cities. I had been again an exchange student. When I was an exchange student, I was in Southwest New York, so I knew some of there. So you just try to find a common ground, and I learned a lot about that. And there was an opportunity to come back to Disney. It's kind of sick and tired of some corporate situations, and I actually got in touch with someone that became a major recruiter there, and she started with me in the Magic Kingdom. And she used to be in Fantasyland. I was in front of the park. And she said, actually, someone just had to drop out of one of our programs for alumni. I will change the petition for the government, send it to you ASAP. You're going to get a visa, and you're coming within, 3 weeks. So here I was, 2012, in the summer, working for Disney, and it was hilarious. Like a bunch of 100 Brazilians, all alumni of the program, because it's a different program, for the tour groups and stuff. They realized that they don't need to bring 500 Brazilians. If they bring 100, they cover the ground because it's not about the families don't need it. Right. It's groups. You need the groups. You need these people to have more privileges in the parks to walk around and roam the halls. We didn't work with our costume was actually just a polo with a Brazilian flag. That's how important it was for the tour groups. And you roam from group to group to group to group to group. That covers more ground than 500 cast members scattered. There came the opportunity to come back. And then it goes back to a Brazilian proverb that says, that's a saying that says, you're not remembered if you're not seen. And my compliment to that will be, you're not going to be seen if you don't get out. You're not going to stand out if you don't get out. So I put myself in situations and being there, which brings me to the UFC, right? I'm here. I'm in Las Vegas. I would have not gotten this opportunity if I was still in Orlando. So right. I have to thank the powers that be for actually having brought me into Vegas somehow, some way, someday, right?
Okay, so let's now transition back to translating and the UFC.
Yeah.
How does this job come about? Because you have, in the last 3 years, burst on the scene. All of a sudden, here's this guy that's doing translation on Contender Series, and I'm seeing this guy in the black T-shirt every week, and God, he does a great job, and he's different than the other translators we've seen. How do you end up in that role?
Some people, they've corrected me, rightfully so, and in a very nice way, actually, a very complimentary way. Say, listen, translations are more associated. I worked for a translation company before, and actually that fits into how I got this. But I've worked for a translation company, meaning editing, localization, contextual translations, adaptations, business, technical, literary. So translations are more on just like libel and slander, right? So translations are libel, and interpreting is slander. So I need to. Some people said, please call yourself an interpreter, which I think is some of the people in the broadcast I've said. Like, remember John Anik a couple of times and threw out an interpreter, and it's like, you're right. By the way,
right,
happy birthday, John Anik, today.
Birthday, J.A.
Yeah,
the great former guest of this show.
It's my mom's birthday. My mom's 70th birthday. I'm like, oh my God, it's John Anik's birthday.
Okay, so this is going to be something that I remember. I will remember your mother's birthday for the rest of my life. It is my brother-in-law's birthday, so happy birthday, Tim Cole. It is my dear friend Harry Powell's wife, Imogen Powell. Happy birthday, Imogen, John Anik, and your mother.
There you go. It's
July 3rd. Every July 3rd, I'm sending out happy birthdays to 4 tremendous people.
She tagged along. Yeah, it's
she started it. Let's be. She was the pioneer of the foursome.
She seems to.
She was leading the way.
Crowd, yes. Unless Anik is hiding his age, but it's interesting because in a weekend where Michael Morales actually had the great. He's so young, so promising, so technical, so humble. And the way he speaks so highly of his mom, it's pretty inspiring. So we all have our idols, right? So to me, I just wanted to open this parenthesis and say I had to rediscover the strength of my mother, because when we lost my father, I'm an only child. You realize the short Italian woman that was very shy is stronger than you ever believed she was. So it's go out there, hug your mothers, tell them you love them, and it's insane how it can be an inspiration. Your mom does not have to be like Michael Morales' mom. They just got another medal. All right, just right. They all have their medals, and they're like to say, we're all fighters, right? But the interpreting job came about because of the fact that, first of all, here in Las Vegas, right, being a local, someone that's with the UFC and been for many years. There are many Brazilians out there, and some of them from that associated with my city. There are times there. Actually, there were a couple of times that it's like myself, someone from commission, a fighter, and an octagon girl, and we're all from the same city. How cool is that? Right? It's like, what? It's like we all kind of looked around. It's like Curitiba in the house. So then the UFC was not going to travel for a while because of COVID, and due to the pandemic, obviously there was not going to be any sort of travel or road shows or anything of the sort. And they were looking for and asking around, as one does, if you know anybody that lives in Vegas that can do this, that is not associated perhaps with an athlete or a team or management, can we perhaps bring that person in? Well, it just so happened that she was around here and said, listen, when I met you, you were working for a translating company as an editor.
Right.
You did workshops. And this is something I did too. Remember I told you about that smart guy that lives in Whistler?
Yes.
He, very cool guy. Just, again, one of the fascinating people that just have this life, and all of a sudden it's a bulb, and you're like, how can you be so cool, so smart, and you actually do the business side? This man was in Hollywood in his glory days. This man works in safety prevention and behavioral programs. I mean, this is how the mind works. And he was fascinating to look at in a workshop content. Like, he was very engaging. So I was the product and sales manager for Latin America, for Spanish-speaking Latin America. He was doing a lot of the workshops, which became a big thing now. He's doing it all over the world. He's been doing it for years. So we had an idea to say, listen, what you're doing is very engaging, and we're preaching something different than just being professional about safety. Safety is like the life of a goalie, right? You make 16 saves like Howard made in the World Cup in 2014. Well, one got through,
right,
and Belgium won. So that, unfortunately, you get people. The life of a soccer goalie is tough. So safety is like that. You go to, at the end of the day, that stat that's in front of a company like that, or a plant that says we have been such and so many days without
X number of days without an incident.
Without incident or accident or fatality, or whatever the measurement is. And it's like the one day that it happens, there's a negative connotation to it. And obviously there's the legal aspect of it. Because let me tell you, who don't like debts in the workplace is legal. Legal don't like that. So there's always a very negative connotation to the loss of life or incidents and any sort of, it's severance, all kind of, it's compensation. And we forget safety in our homes. We forget safety in our day-to-day lives. And I always ask people very clearly when I did my workshops, and like, how many of you fry an egg wearing protective goggles? And I think I've never, ever had the answer, yes, I do. But yet, pools are very dangerous to children. We all know this. And people tend to drive 15 miles an hour inside the corporate headquarters, and they go 60 on a 35 whenever no one's looking, which goes back to human behavior, right? What are you doing when no one's looking? And we were trying to internalize this. And in order for you to do that, you have to be just as personable in your approach. And here, this man who's very personable, very funny. We kind of look like each other. People said that we were like, very similar to each other. And I knew the product. I did my homework, tried to understand. I mean, every joke that he had, I also had scripted to like, this is to be the best joke in Portuguese and Spanish for this. So let me use that joke when it happens. Otherwise, people are not going to laugh. It's going to just fall flat, right?
Right.
So it didn't take twice the time for us to do this, but it took about 1.5 times the time. But you provide an alternative outside of the realm of simultaneous translation, which is a very monotonal thing, on a headphone with no preparation. They are prepared people. There's a skill to that, but they are not the product manager and the sales manager for it that knows the guy. They just come in for the day. Right. They don't know. They're good at interpreting and translating literally, like on that part, but it's not their bread and butter. So I was doing the mannerisms. I was doing the same thing that he was doing, almost like like church-like. They show those mega churches and they show the sermon overseas, and the guy goes,
right
down from the heaven, and this guy in the language, it's the same thing. I thought it was fascinating because that brought people close. So she saw me doing that. She didn't do that. She said, I've seen you go from language to language to language, welcoming people because the people didn't know the languages, and you were there just trying to bridge the gap, because sometimes you have to play that person because all you wanted is for the parties to understand themselves. So I've seen you do all this in your previous professional life. You worked for Disney for a long time. You worked for ESPN when you were in college, and I worked for ESPN college football, amongst working for Beaver Stadium, Bryce Jordan Center, and I just pulled some cables and did anything that I could. I just went into a production truck once. I was like, what do you have for students? And they actually had some funny things. I brought coffee to Keith Jackson once, which was pretty cool thing.
Pretty cool.
And Dan Fouts, pretty awesome. So I was associated. I was like, put that experience in there, send me a resume. I did, and within 24 hours, I got an email from someone that's very, very important person in the part of the realm of live production with the UFC, and he was very welcoming and said, listen, I like what you can bring to the table. I think the Portuguese and the Spanish together could be a thing. Would you like to come in for a test next week? And I did. Within 10 days, I was there, which would, this was like on a Thursday. So next Saturday, I was there, the following Saturday. And it was Munoz against Edgar. And that was my first card. And I was very nervous. It was very silent. The apex look of the black T-shirt, it was born there because I thought, what is the cohort in society that wears the most black T-shirts in the history of like the world? The UFC people, man, come on. It's like the Dana White look, right? So I was like,
yeah.
If
may as well dress like the boss.
Yeah, I was like,
never going to get in trouble.
And it's funny because so when they looked at me for the tour, and Heidi Dean, who was just a mother to all of us there, she gave me the tour. I came in, I didn't know anybody there. She's like, "Oh, you don't know here?" I was like, "No, I don't. This is my first time." Everybody, wearing masks, very silent, very, 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 everything very measured. She gives me a tour of the entire UFC. And the Apex, you're gonna sit here, everything remote, and it's imperative to give a Heidi a hug when I go in there.
Same.
So she's there. It's yes.
Vancouver. One of the stops was I have to see Mama there and get a hug.
Exactly. It's insane. And I think again, I cannot stress this enough. The atmosphere there, the people that make the thing happen is just, it's amazing. So credit where credit is due, and then I was brought on board by Don Pfister, just someone that has to deal with us and our schedules, and it's a mentor to us there, and just again, wear black. And they didn't say, it was funny, I think she looked at me and she said, "Oh, I'm glad you're like dressed like that." They didn't say nothing about the way you should be dressed, but it's because the show was right there in the octagon, everybody else was right. And they wear like a lot, everybody's in production. I mean, you kind of blend into the background, right? So I was like, yeah, that look is kept. That year, 2020, I did 3 shows, and a 4th actually towards the end of the year. First time I was thrown to the fire was when So Moreno fought early under the card. Figueiredo fought later in the card. They each call out on each other. They tell me Heidi Andro is going to do an interview in the back that's going to go on broadcast with David Figueiredo to perhaps get a fight with Brandon Moreno scheduled. And before my Disney days, I had just a windbreaker just for Florida rain. I always had in the car with ESPN on it, and black and gray. That's it. And I was like, since I'm here doing this thing, so I might as well wear that, right? So I wasn't dressed for success here. We're doing everything remotely. I'm just like wearing just a full black wear, just like, very gym-like. I just put the thing in. Hey, here I am. Like wearing it.
Works.
Hey, this was not company issue. This was bought. But that was the first time I did it sitting on like a director's chair. And again, it's like, that the experience with Heidi, she didn't know me. It's just, the way they're so professional, just welcoming. They understand like what they're going to do. And then I know just the smile on their faces. And it looks like I'm having a conversation. That moment is the first time I had that interaction. Like, okay, I am having a conversation on his behalf with her. She is having a conversation, with me to give it to, they're trying, but they so Heidi looked at me, Davidson looked at me. So like, this is something I need to be Heidi talking to Davidson. I need to be Davidson talking to Heidi. So that happened. And, eventually, the year goes by, and then I always thought, no, they're not going to call me back. They're not going to need me because, the UFC is going to start traveling again. So, like, this is going to be translated, like, in the cities and stuff. I don't know. I always told my friends, like, maybe I've overstayed my welcome in Vegas. Listen, I got out of a relationship, which happens. Everybody has their moments. Just for context, moved to downtown Las Vegas, to a place that was supposed to be temporary, thinking, just a nice, safe place, have a little bit of structure here, has a gym, has a pool, whatever, just has a nice lounge to work from, an apartment that's going to be my inner peace, like a college dorm, a place that no one comes in to party, but I always come in to sleep. My dorm was immaculate. Like, don't come in. We come in to watch sports. And once in a while, believe it or not, many, many people from different walks of life knew of the Transformers 1986 feature animation film. So a lot of us watched that damn thing many times. So do you know? Okay,
it's classic.
It is a classic. Just one of the most classic soundtracks in the history of mankind. So that was our bond. That was it. I'm not a host. I wanted a place of peace. Got a nice 6-month deal, paying for only 5 months, and I'm going to go back to Orlando, work for my company. COVID hits within 10 days. So I'm thinking having a job is a plus and a half. Just keeping your job, especially in travel, was a big thing. I was deemed useful and made myself useful to the company because for the first 8 weeks, we had training all over the world in the thing that I did. So I facilitated stuff in English, Portuguese, and Spanish for all of our Americans and stuff. So I was like, okay, this is good. Feeling useful for someone who's in the job market. A lot of people talk about men feeling useful. Men, women, everyone wants to feel useful in life. And that kept me useful. It's like, oh my God, I have a purpose. Purpose is great, right? And then this happened towards the end of the summer. I'm like, okay. So I've extended 3 years later. I extended this damn thing like 7 times. But they asked me at one point, how would you feel about traveling domestic? Like, what? And there I was, Adesanya Vittori 2, Figueiredo Moreno 2, because I didn't do the translation for the first majority draw. And then, look at how cool this is. I can look back and I say, I saw Leon Edwards against Nate Diaz. And that was my first event. And I had never had gone on TV in the octagon, because every week it was a different wrinkle, a different restriction was removed. We were already going. And then I actually managed to go up to the octagon with Felder, maybe with Bisping, and like nothing happened because the Brazilian fighter really lost, or there was one time that I was going to go another chance, but guy like a knockout with like 10 seconds to go. Like that stuff happened.
Right. The timing of it didn't work. There was not going
Yeah.
to be an interview. We just moved on.
In that card, there was a loss from a Brazilian. So the first time I go up in the octagon ever to translate live on TV was when Figueiredo lost to Moreno right in front of me. I was, to this day, crazy that I was like right there. And to interview the losing party in there. And it was very, Figueiredo was very graceful in that. That. Actually, it was, I mean, it goes to show, like, it was being really nice. And then it's Brendan's wife like comes over, like the family is very united, right? And it was such a cool thing of both of them, with a couple, to come in, and like, it was a great feeling because it was very respectful,
right?
I remember Brendan's wife coming with Brendan and like say, just, hey, thank you for the opportunity, the challenge. This was very graceful words to say. Tonight was this night, and I just thought it was a special moment, and I got to translate. Funny thing, obviously I'm a little taller than Joe Rogan and Davison, and it's loud out there, people. I now have like an earpiece, but I didn't have any, and it was loud. It was the first big event throughout the pandemic, so there were 20,000 people yelling. It feels like we're in Mexico City, and when Davison is not necessarily the loudest.
No, yeah, he's a very quiet speaker.
Well, towards the end of it, Joe asks him the question, and it just he says something. I get the thing memorized to translate, and then the microphone is between Figueiredo's mouth and my eyesight, and he says very, very. You don't, if you see the angle on TV, like or on YouTube, you actually see right there, like believe me, I'm here. I can't read lips because I do a lot of lip reading. It's loud or something. It's an added wrinkle. It's an audio visual for me. Lips are very important. Well, I didn't hear it. You know what I didn't hear? The call out. And let's do this the third time. YouTube, man. He didn't translate the most important part. I'm like, oh my God, how do I explain this? That I didn't see or hear what was happening. But the first time I was in the octagon was myself, Joe Rogan, and Dana White holding a belt. And you just like act like you've been there before. So I just looked.
Don't freak out. Just, yeah.
I just looked over to the side and I looked at Dana White and I said, we have the first Mexican-born champion in the history of this. He goes, how cool is that? He goes, I know. All right.
Yeah.
Adrenaline down. That was and then there was the moment, Poirier McGregor. I mean, such a special moment, right? I don't know if I have seen the last of the man. Whatever that was in a spectacle, a show. And they call me for production and says, the producer's going to come to you. And then it was Jimmy. And now I see him all the time. And a Giants fan, huge Giants fan. And another Giants fan, Megan O'Leary, is going to come to you. And Charles Oliveira is across from the octagon. And you know that the winner of this is production talking to me before the main event. And they're going to come to you because whoever wins this is most likely going to face them. So we're going to go live and talk to Charles Oliveira. Jimmy comes and gets me. And I go to Megan, who is the nicest person ever. Again, very welcoming, just like Heidi did. Then the interview just flows, and it's just amazing how they go from like their notes to being regular people and saying hi to people, like being on camera. That's
right.
Freaking fascinating. People don't understand like how that works. So like they turn it up and like you see that thing on TV and it's like, yes, it's who they are, but it's like it's very like, listen, there's a method in that man, isn't it? Yeah. Pretty awesome. So here I am looking at the man, the myth, the legend right in front of me. So I had never had contact with him. He's wearing the jacket. He's got the sunglasses. He's got the belt. Going like this. I'm interviewing him, and this man has got a smile and a pointy chin. So when he looks at you, it's like, oh, he's got an aura.
Yes.
Like, I tell people how it was. That's how I met him. right there live on TV. With, by the way, Poirier still celebrating as he
Right.
should. McGregor being taken on a girder. Actually, if you go on YouTube and you watch the interview, it's right there, and they alternate with images of McGregor being taken on a stretcher, like, and people just and then he didn't shut up, obviously. So it was loud, man. Megan had herself. Charles is just going by whatever I'm interpreting for him. And at one point, actually, I was like, "Oh, Megan, what did you say?" I actually just I asked for a repeat.
Double check, yeah.
And afterwards, she was like, "Oh, dude, no, I could barely hear myself." So I thought it was really nice of her because, it's not. And that's when I met him. That's when I met Charles. And I told people, I was like, listen, again, I've been very privileged. I'm from a part of the country that's different. We look different. We act different. We're from different walks of life. And it's the soft-spoken, well-spoken killer that Charles Leclerc is. And I just got that from those 5 seconds. And I was like, you don't understand, man. That dude's got something. And I said it to people. People ask me, what was the most special thing? It's like, I hadn't even done a fight. It's like, I don't know what it was. This guy he's got a thing. And there's something in the way, because again, because of the language experience, because of public relations, comms, sports, have always been my thing. I was like, there is something to the way that he carries himself that is it looks like this man is like media trained by the heavens. It's like, it's pretty, the way he did it. And I always told people, and then months later, here I am, and then obviously I had that experience, and then that people didn't know much about the Spanish. And then Contender Series came around. And then I got to be pretty much like Laura was a very busy person, which, by the way, again, busy, running around and still being the nicest person ever. But just at this point, in that first season that I did, she was actually doing the result.
Yeah, she did the first couple weeks. She did the ring announcing, and then she would hustle back and do the interview, and then she would hustle back to the desk and do.
By the way, upstairs,
right? Yeah, it's up and down. For people that don't know, I haven't been there, but I've talked to Laura obviously about it. She's been on the show and different things. It's up and downstairs in heels. 2 different. Basically, she had 3 areas where she was working.
Yes,
hustling back and forth in heels, talking to.
Let's stress the in heels. We have not gone through those motions, man. It was just something. They streamlined it afterwards, but it's like, and I was there, and there have been some funny moments of because Contender is just it's for there's an emotional attachment that you get with Contender, because Contender. Yes, I mean, again, when people ask me what is it like to translate for people, their fight starts way before the octagon. It goes way beyond it. That is a moment that can change a person's life, and is the 100%. Culmination, right, of everything that happened. Many of them from humble beginnings. They'd be literally beating up on each other and going through hardships to be there. And all of a sudden, I get to see their win, which is a first ecstasy moment, and then the contract. And you're tasked with relaying those feelings. So we've had, and there's a different fight. There's some of them that are emotional, they cry. Some of them are ecstatic. Some of them want to have a list of things that they want to say.
Right.
Some of them are like, listen, this is it's my moment. To each their own. You try to be that person for those minutes. And I remember a couple of times that Laura said there was one week that Laura was like, I almost wanted to console you. I was like, it was very emotional. So that's like pretty much the trajectory that I had. Right. And then obviously then I had a Charles Oliveira fight, and things changed. And it just that was it. And it all came from another concept that I liked. And I always try to give credit to whom that's due. But this one I can't trace back to the first time I heard this, right? But besides the whole, you're not seen if you're not remember if you're not seen, and you're not going to stand out if you don't get out. I came to the conclusion that it really doesn't matter who you know, but it matters who knows you.
Right.
And it was someone that knew don't be afraid to share your wins. Don't be afraid to share the things that you've done. Don't you even sometimes it involves asking people, but a lot of times it's just you mentioning that you're there because you never know when people are going to remember that one conversation that you had with them that
Right.
may lead to them
Triggers
just
something that
right there. It's a conversation. Hey, I just talked to this guy. Hey, maybe, and maybe you're not the person, but you know a person. And that goes back to the Disney days. Do I know this? No, but I do know a person that may know this, a person that knows it, another cast member, or even the procedure.
right.
Always ask. So and always be there for people. So it was just basically someone that just and then being in Vegas again. And I
Right.
was here. A lot of people have asked me about doing this, and I was like, listen, I couldn't do this being in Orlando. I mean,
Right.
maybe because it feels a different situation. Like there are many
Right.
people that come for different functions of the business and for different roles. They come in and are flown into everywhere. But I mean, I live at the apex, man. I'm the cost effective guy that just shows up
Right.
whenever they ask something. Hey, well, have you on Wednesday for media day? Yes, I'll be there.
Right.
I'll shut some conference calls because I already have conference calls all week. And again, I start my day with these past three or 4 weeks. Do you think I think I did not want to enjoy Stanley Park every morning, listen to birds chirping and just some boats and stuff. But I had a conference call in Spanish at 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific, and one in English at 7. And I got to be in that beautiful hotel room. It's still just there. It's your job, right?
Right.
But it's been wild. It's been wild. I never in my lifetime would I thought about this.
It's crazy that it's been 3 years.
Yes.
And it's ridiculous to me how quickly years are progressing. So I have some technical interpreter questions that I will ask eventually. There was a piece in there that you mentioned that I know you touched on and talked about a little bit when you sat down with Luke Thomas on Morning Combat, which was a phenomenal interview. Everybody should go check that out. It's on Luke's YouTube page. It's on the MK YouTube page. Go find them when we're done here. You said you need to be Heidi Androl for Davison, and you need to be Davison for Heidi Androl. One of the things that immediately stood out for me when you first appeared on my screen was, who is this dude that isn't just translating and interpreting, but is inhabiting that role? And I've heard you say, I get to act, and I need to act for those 5 seconds, those 10 seconds, those 15 seconds. You view it as, I need to play the part of this person in this moment so that it comes across to each of those parties. And I'm the intermediary going between the two roles. Where does that understanding come from? Because that's not what we've seen. And this goes to the introduction of, you are the best in the business. That's not what we've seen historically, right? We don't see emotion. We don't see engagement. We just get the words. What gave you the understanding of, I need to be in this role of the fighter for the interviewer, of the interviewer for the fighter, and convey not just the words, but the emotion and the meaning and the feeling behind it as well?
The first thing is that you cannot. I'm benefited by the fact that two of the most passionate cultures in the world are the ones that need my services for the most part. I mean, these are Latin Americans. Some speak Portuguese, some Spanish, and that just carries a lot of passion historically, inherently. The second thing is that these are fighters and they have just gone through an experience that I have not been through, whether in winning or losing, in victory or defeat. They just have been through this. They went at it with someone, and that man or that woman have gone through some stuff, so they let it out. And the third is that there is an understanding of the fact that those could be the invaluable moments in which someone out there, maybe one fan, can connect to this person who is an individual in an individual sport that, yes, does have a team behind it. And believe me, a lot of people do correct you if you say, oh, it's an individual sport. Yeah, but because the teams are very, I always try, especially when the fighter goes and mentions the team by name.
Right.
I always try to recall those names. If they mention like 7 people at home, sometimes it's like, listen, now it's getting too far. Contender Series, they mention like local brands of restaurants. I can't.
Right.
There's no. I can't.
Right.
The,
I
the,
want to
the
shout out the
ESPN
mom and pop.
audience.
Yeah.
Yes, the ESPN audience. I mean, at this point, restaurant at home, my boys, whatever. But just to do respect to all those people there, especially when they're mentioned by name, especially because they change people's lives. But the brand is individual, right? There is a management team. There might be a marketing guy. There's a coach. There are people that want this person to succeed. There's not just the fighter, the family, everybody. They represent much more. And if I don't want the language to be a barrier to their personality, I don't, not that I want anything. I mean, who am I? But I just wanted to make sure, because you have contact with these people in media day. You have contact with these people before and after. And they are people. I know it's just mind blowing here.
Wild concept.
Just, breaking news. They are people with funny things to say, with deep things to say, with things that should be on a book someday, or a documentary. But at that moment, they have these invaluable like seconds in which they can say what they want. And I did commercial acting in Brazil for 10 years. When I was asked in the casting call, which I went to just randomly, if I had acted, the first thing in the past, I said, first of all, I have been in the corporate world already for roughly 8 to 10 years in the United States and here. So nothing means not being someone that you are, or being someone else than being in the corporate world. Believe me, we're all actors every day.
Right.
Because this whole I love my job could be easily substituted if any of us hits the Powerball this week. All right, just chill on the productive society. All right, we will all be on a beach or on a mountain somewhere, maybe, if we had all that money in the world. Let's just say things would change.
Yes.
The second thing is that I mentioned that I spoke multiple languages, and I said I have been multiple people in different situations. Speaking another language means a little bit of a reset. You can kind of be who you are, but you can be someone else if you want to. And some people reset with languages. And I tagged on the fact that I lived in multiple cities and worked with different environments, that I was a cast member for Disney and stuff like that. Letting it be known that a cast member was an employee. But I said, I've had to act different with different people in different languages, and that's acting in itself. At that point, like, the director was like, okay, go on. And I said, third, I'm a Brazilian single man. All right. We are whatever we need to be.
Right.
And
whoever I need to be in this moment, I got it. I can dial it up. Yeah.
Yes. There are many musical styles which I cannot stand for 1 second, but we like to say, we'll take a lot of hits for our social lives in Brazil. So they laughed. They said that I laughed the way I was. The expressions came out on my casting call, and I was an actor for their company for 10 years. They teach English in Brazil. It's one of probably the largest English teaching conglomerate of different methods in all of the Americas. And they had a production company that actually did HD quality, global TV directors and photography people, like they did. And there's going to be the new one. We're going to 48 chapters. So like months of shooting. Like it's just, and they were just moving their headquarters to my city out of Rio, 3 blocks away from where I was. So I became the reliable guy that, like, hey, can you come here and do like a thing? I'll be 3 seconds. I'll walk 3 blocks, and I was there. And I remember it was the first time I heard, again, I'd never heard much of being reliable from women in my life, but I heard that from a director once, and I was very happy. It's the first time I heard it, like, I don't know, age almost 30, it's like, you're very reliable. Oh my God. That was nice. I just thought, so it came a little bit from the acting, and I don't know. I just, you do get carried away at that moment. And it's like, listen, the interviewer is also trying to do things with personality.
Right.
So these people got jokes too. So you try to translate that. And how are you going to translate the joke if you're stoic there?
Right.
Or how can you translate emotion if you're stoic or interpret that? So I was more mild. I understand I was way more mild mannered when I started. Okay, you get more comfortable. I get more comfortable talking to Bisping or talking to Felder or talking to Cormier. And now it's interesting. That progression changed too. I was like, be there, like, where do I go? And stuff like that. It's like now we're talking. Listen, I go up in the octagon talking about the Eagles with Felder. So Bisping's asking me questions. Like once Bisping looked at me right before the interview, like he has the questions. Like, and now I feel more valuable to it in the sense like he asks, "Oh, can you help me on the pronunciation of his nickname or something like that?" Or say, "What was it?" They asked like extra information, or even I told them like once. Simple stuff. Alan Puroso, Charles' team, Alan Nascimento actually had a picture that he just pulled out of. I think Diego Lima had a picture. That was a picture of him and his father. His father passed away 15 days before he lost in Abu Dhabi the year before. So he gets a win. He just pulls. And I just told Bisping like randomly, like they didn't know production wasn't
right.
Production was expecting
it wasn't
an
a thing that was expected. It's just
no. He just pulled it off like an air. My homework, the things that I do about the things that could happen. So I just touched Bisping like, listen. By the way, that's a picture of his dad. That is he's holding a picture of his dad who passed away 15 days before his loss in Abu Dhabi last time. So this is the first time he fought with a full camp after the passing of his father. He goes, shit. And then Bisping goes, yeah, the interview. Which, by the way, right. Hey, talk about a guy who just. The dude is like Hollywood star, action guy, family man. It's hilarious. Like, and Bisping goes, "Hey, that's going to change a little bit of the interview here. So let me go." And then he mentions it in the interview because, and then Alan Danimi, by the way, I was there. Kind of asked me for that time because, and to everyone, I do not want to be there all the time when I'm not needed. Some fighters have actually expressed that they would like me to be next to them to understand questions.
Right.
It's sometimes
it makes people more comfortable, right? And the ability to, when they want to pivot out, when they want to. I know I've done it a ton of times with Zoom interviews or phone interviews where somebody will be speaking in English with me, everything's fine, and then one question comes across and it's native tongue translated to whoever is with them. Then we get an answer back from either the interpreter or the individual
directly from
is able to be like, "Oh, okay, now I know what you mean." But it's helpful. It provides that. I mean, not to call you a safety blanket, but it provides that safety net, right? It provides that understanding of if I need something, I have the resource here.
And it goes well in the interview front. It goes well for the fighter. Again, you talked about level of comfort. And then it culminates with Natalia Silva speaking English a couple of weeks ago. And Bruce goes, "We don't need the translator." I might leave.
Off you went.
But then, she felt comfortable.
Right.
And at one point, she looked at me, "How do you say this?" Like this. It's like,
right.
Paulo Costa, man, he speaks perfect English.
Yeah.
Paulo Costa speaks perfect English. He makes jokes. He's the meme king. Like, this dude was humble enough in that fight when he actually fought Rockhold in Salt Lake City. And we all watched. It was a pretty cool moment because obviously one wants to be there by the octagon, but I was helping him out with PR, and I just at that point he was taking a shower, and a Paulo Costa shower is a Paulo Costa shower, right? So it's man, and he's taking his sweet time. They knew it. At any rate, nothing's gonna happen during the fight, so I'm watching Leon and Kumar go at it, and I'm right here. Aljo is like Evie is with me from now our great Evelyn, who's now a UFC fight price Brazil fixture. I'm watching it with her. Next to us is Aljo just sitting, and Marab comes over because Marab had just retired Aldo, all right,
yep.
right there. So Marab's always being Marab, the coolest guy right there. He's got the head, he's got the whole thing. He's like, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" It's like they were both watching. He's with Aljo, and behind me is the coolest moment ever. I get to see almost like a Formula One kind of thing when I'm watching the last round, right? And then a 4-1 fight. That's what I mean, right? By all accounts. And I'm looking, and right behind me is everyone from BJ Sport. How cool is that? First of all, they're cool people. They're funny. They that was a moment, right? So I get to watch Headshot Bang, and I look back, and I see an entire country celebrating in the microphone. So it was the coolest thing ever. So that night we go to the afterward. Obviously, everything is done. They're celebrating, and then some of my colleagues that some of the people that call colleagues because we work together, and obviously I'm not staff from the UFC, but some of the people that from .com and from social.
I understand completely.
Yes. So they remind me of the records from like Anderson Silva that we're about to beat by Kimura. Like, well, this is pretty freaking historic. So I'm about to go with Paulo to the press conference afterwards, and I'm just there, just sitting, because one of the things that I've tried to do is, first of all, I always say I'm here to help, right? So it's not to say that the fighter is not going to answer. Many times I'm there because if there's media from another country, for example, now Yair and Brandon don't need me,
right?
But I'm always there.
The interviewer might.
What if
the media might?
So, and they have the right to ask the question in pure 4-4, some Mexican Spanish, and the answer for the content to be in Spanish as well. But for everyone, there may be a tidbit that maybe somebody can pick up, and so they don't repeat the question or something of the sort. So it's just I'm there to help, literally. So I was there just in case the Brazilian media was going to ask us some of the people who are in Salt Lake City. But Paulo just looks at me and was like, he goes, no. What's that word? I'm like, that's so humble. That is so cool. Like the fact that like they don't mind, as you said, like a safety blanket for something. And I was just basically there for other stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing. But people are trying to get me out of the job, man. So Natalia speaking English. Charles rolls out 6 sentences. What the hell's going on? What the heck?
You mentioned the moment with Natalia Silva. Great viral moment. We had a moment this past weekend. Joe Anderson Brito decides I'm just gonna lay in to Dan Ige.
What? Like
just decides in the moment, gets a great win, does his dance, seems like a happy, jovial man.
Very much so.
And then the microphone goes in front of him and it's just essentially motherfuck Dan Ige.
Pretty much.
I mean, are there any points for you ever where it's just like, nah, I can't say that. I gotta edit this up a little bit.
There's a lot of shit that turns into crap. There's a lot of, and there's a lot of caralho that I say, damn. It's like, you have to, you have to change. You just clean up things.
Okay.
But that one was interesting because Joe Anderson was my first, hey, can you come here? Like it was a Sunday morning. Joe Anderson's in town. It's for Contender Series, something called the feature shoot. So before Contender Series, there were the feature shoots for all those fighters. Joe Anderson was my first. So it's interesting because I've known this guy since the first day that he was doing all the interviews for Contender. I've seen him fight. I understand his life story. And the coaches always said, "Man, you're for a lucky charm. You've been there since the first one." So I know like the guy. Like I know he's funny. He's got things to say. He's electric. And I just thought it was hilarious that he just went off. And like out of all people,
Dan Ige.
Like what? Like
who rolled with it well. To Dan's credit, and I think I said this on my podcast yesterday. Dan Ige rolled with it well of like jumping on Twitter and posting the 50 Cent meme of like, why are you talking about me? Like hell did I do? I'm just sitting here at home watching fights, and all of a sudden some dude decided to just come after me.
Yes, I thought it was hilarious. No, it's hilarious. And then actually the funny thing is that that's now a meme. Dude, ESPN MMA.
Of you and Bisping giving each other the
no, they got how this is the most unreal stuff, right? So talking about BT Sport, like they put me on their social media and use me as a collaborator for a post. I was like, what? Like for when Charles spoke English, which I thought it was the nicest thing. And again, behind social media accounts, there are people. And it's awesome. I never thought in my lifetime that I was going to know some people that represent like now with the not just the rise of social media. Talk about the rise of, listen, the rise of social media, something happened years ago, right? This is the age of social media.
Right.
Sorry. We live in a social media world, and for me, it's like, this is like linear. Like social media is like linear years ago. So like I'm looking at these people like, oh my God, I know B2 Sport. And then ESPN MMA goes and puts my last name. This is the first time my last name was ever like mentioned in any capacity like that by like put Buskei and the look Buskei and Bisping's face, and I was like, people are coming to show the thing to me. I'm like, oh my God, like I never thought I was gonna. It was interesting to actually weird to see my family name there, but it became like a viral moment because both of them was look and really like I was like, did I just hear that? Like, oh, that's what you meant. So it could, to some people it sounded like, where did you learn that from? But yeah, we were like, well, and the thing is, like, Bisping is just as expressive. Like he's like,
yes, he's not somebody that is going to dial it back and deadpan that. He is going to steer all the way into that turn.
And by the way, just as someone that now consumes this thing, just because of all the travel, all the the sleep cycle and stuff like that, I decided to get like, cause Vegas, I got like an IV a couple of days ago. So some of the people, the generous and the drunkards are getting this.
You won't hear me knocking it. It makes 100% sense.
So I said, let me see what's going on. Don't want to say I did my research, but like I just kind of looked around and see what people are doing, and then there's like some vitamins with vitamins and boosters and stuff like that. I was like, okay, maybe. So let me see. I'm always on the strips. Like, ain't nobody coming here to my temple, right? I'm gonna go to the strip, and I went. This was like it was my self-pampering moment, right? I did 3 things. 1, I got a haircut. I needed it. I hadn't cut my hair since like April. 2, I got the IV. 3, I went to watch Transformers because I had to. Okay, listen, it's just I had to. All right, it's my moral obligation to watch Transformers in a movie theater.
Person of a certain age, you absolutely have to.
Thank you. So I had plus this new generation of stuff, just kind of bringing me back because there's like OG1 stuff, and it's pretty fun, and they're doing a great job. Bumblebee is a great movie, and this was fun. Had a lot of kids moments, but fun movie. Just I think we're all suffering from Avengeritis or Avenger Infinity-itis. Must we have a major battle on a sunset full of like a major alien structure,
right,
in a almost like a quarry or something like this, and then the world is about to end and another thing is about to enter the realm of our world? I think can we just have like maybe like Scourge, like can we have like a good old one-on-one?
Yeah, I love the event. I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've enjoyed it all, but agree wholeheartedly. Can we get for every Marvel, can we get one like drama? Can we get one quality comedy? Can we get one quality rom-com? Like,
yeah, I mean,
a good thriller, a good noir, a good detective flick. Like,
I'll take airport scene. That was good. That was like a 5-on-5.
Yeah,
the airport. It wasn't like Berlin or something. Hey, we're good. Like, why? That was good. That was some context. That was very comic book, because the comics, everybody who's a comic fan knows, like, there's a lot of like people took dark turns. Like Superman was not like they had issues. Sometimes the superheroes fought each other. It wasn't just the villains. So there was like a lot of free agency going on back in the day. Like, what's like? I just thought, that was a good one. Plus, novel concept, daylight. I could see the entire battle.
Right.
No one's beating the crap out of 115 beings at the same time. You're right. I mean, at one point in Transformers, RC is riding on the rhinos. Like, easy. Come on, can we have a riding on the rhino? Like maybe in Africa. Let's do this. So yeah, it's a little too much. But I go and I walk the strip. So for Vegas reference, I live downtown above a bar, as one does, right by the container park, right by El Cortez, and I walk all the way down to like the airport at Mandalay Bay. It's a long walk. I like to take long walks. Some people like long walks on the beach. I like to see degenerates coming out of casinos. It's nothing for all the New Yorkers out there, all the people from the cities. Nothing makes you understand the city and how your surroundings more than walking around and going into some places, right? And nobody ever found a bodega by driving around.
That's right.
That's the point. So I walk to like one of the casinos, not to like give brand away. Like I went to one casino, like, hey, this location is closed, but we're gonna put you in the other one. Let's go over there. I get there, really well treated. Got the thing, got a boost, a push or whatever, and they had like a TV with YouTube. So here I am getting an IV for 2 hours, watching free fights. I'm watching Pantoja Moreno, and I'm like, as I said, I've been consuming a lot of this damn content, man. It gets you. You started looking at fights. Like there was just a breakdown of Volkanovski breaking down the fight against Islam. So I'm dying to watch that. I get to see the embedded guys go after everything. It's like every damn week I just see Felipe, Thanasis, Chris, Mitch. They're just following people around, and then I get to see the end product. Like I watched Countdown, and the reason why I'm saying this, like I try to watch everything. It's like you don't watch Breakdown and the lines, like it's everything. The Bisping documentary, man. Like I saved the time to watch the Bisping documentary on a flight, as one does when they travel. So that was a fun. It was pretty interesting, and it was surreal to have seen him that weekend. And guess who was there? His family. Like his father was there. A man that I said, you look like he actually looked like Alfred. Very Alfred. Yes, and I whooped his dad. It's like, do you know you kind of look like him? I was like, yeah, because of the accent. You sound like it was, but it's insane to actually be with these people that, before the Cruz Cheeto fight in San Diego, I wanted just to find it. I mean, I was gonna try to find it, but I'm in hotel in San Diego, tired, obviously, job, travel. I mean, we've been traveling around a lot. August. It was post Singapore, post Austin.
Right.
Salt Lake City is gonna be crazy. I get to San Diego. I was like, I worked my day job, and I was like, I'm gonna go. Oh no, that day was a media day, like a long. I was with Yasmin Haregi until like 6:30. This is a long ass media day. I get to the room, take a shower, and I'm like, yep, I need one night of sleep in this beautiful bed. And I turn on TV, and the MMA gods. I shit you not. This was a minute into the thing that I wanted to watch. That documentary between Faber and Cruz that shows them interacting and how their rivalry came about, which I thought it was great. It's like MMA history. And I got to watch that. I was like, you start consuming all this content, and I'm like around these people now, which is insane. Right? Yeah, this is the part that I just don't. I haven't come to grips with. Every time there's like a documentary on one of them or like a special or something, I need to watch it because it's like now I can see more of who you were, and it all started for me because of the Anderson Silva documentary,
Like Water,
which I thought it was interesting because as a public relations graduate, I look at that and I thought at the end of that documentary, I appreciated Chael Sonnen 1,000 times more than I ever did because this was the villain to us.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my God, this man, because of the wrestling culture, probably the strongest culture of all. People talk about jiu-jitsu. I mean, I went to Penn State, man, and I went to school in Southwestern New York. wrestling has a culture,
Yes.
a relentless culture. So it was insane to see that, the Oregon background, and the fact that like he understood the business, he understood promoting a fight, he understood the WWE aspect
Yeah.
and it was like
The thing Chael gets better than anybody and got better than anybody was okay, because he was, and so I have a piece coming out this week on Anderson because of Hall of Fame.
yes, okay,
And so wrote in there about here's this guy that, right, like the fights he won to become the number one contender, they weren't great big fights. It wasn't over great big names. Chael was just kind of a guy. He had been around, he'd fought some people. He was a good fighter, but he wasn't a guy that you thought, man, I really can't wait to see Chael Sonnen fight Anderson Silva. And he understood kind of what you have said throughout this a couple of times. Nobody's going to care unless they see me. And nobody's going to see me unless I put myself out here. And he walked out and was like, here's everything. And he's cribbing from pro wrestling, and he's taking shots out here in Vancouver at the Nogueiras, at Brazil, and it instantly put a country against him. And as soon as that happened, it was, this fight is now, this fight that wasn't going to be a deal because Anderson wasn't a huge star. Everybody had respect for him.
Yes.
But he wasn't this gravitational pull guy. And all of a sudden, this mouthy American dude from West Lynn, Oregon, makes it into a massive fight. And here we go.
Some people
Chael
never care
better than anybody.
Yeah. Some people never care for Batman. First of all, because he was just a rich guy. Second, no abilities, right? No special,
no superpowers, yeah,
or superpower whatsoever. But and in a mild manner, just very dark and whatever. And then came the villains. And I remember when I wasn't that much like I like comic books, but not like the serious ones. And when I was a kid, I went to one of the shops, like a newsstand in Brazil, and I was like, okay, so today I'm gonna shift a little bit. I'm not gonna get like funny comments. And I went to like more elaborate comic sections, and it was a little thicker book, just a red. You can still find it. Actually, I found it, and it's just nice glossy finish. It's like, oh, I'm gonna take this. My dad even like, is that what you want? Like, yeah, I thought it was interesting. Never had that experience of what maybe some Transformers comics, some GI Joes, but not that. It was the origin story of the Batman villains. Just like a couple, and it was deep. It was like, what? This is adulting. It was great, and it made me appreciate the whole Batman situation more.
Right.
So you get a guy that was, again, mild manner, soft spoken, low voice. The energy was just just a technical assassin, right? And not the Sonya, right? But without the brash personality,
right.
But on the octagon is just so technical. Then you get that, and I saw that documentary back at home, and it was a multiple fascination for what was going on, and I was like, oh shit, this guy Chael just gets it. Gets it, and I was like, yeah, this is a perfect antagonist, and I bet he doesn't mean shit what he's saying, like all the bad stuff, like
right.
Like, dude,
right.
Like, he's doing the right thing,
right.
And I just started looking at that. I was like, you need to know how to promote a fight. That's it, and that kind of turned me on. You asked me like about like your MMA fandom and stuff like that. Thing turned me on to like they're doing a thing here. This is a country, and then obviously I go to that there was. I watched one of the Anderson show fight in Orlando. Remember how people like hated him? I was like, eh. And then it came back full circle because as I became an adult, some people that I couldn't stand in the past, I have an amazing appreciation for them. For example, did I like Steve Spurrier? No. Now, genius. He said the best. This is inside joke. You got to know English. You got to know college football. And I'm not going to explain it to you because this is our joke. This man once in a press conference said, you can't spell citrus without UT. And people need to understand how bowls work and exactly what it meant to go to the Citrus Bowl instead of the SEC championship game. And that because Tennessee can never beat Florida and still can't for the most part. And I just thought that man, who I thought was an asshole, was a genius. It was like, yeah, I didn't like you because I was at Penn State and you guys were like ranked with us and we beat Ohio State. You lost to LSU and I celebrated your loss. But now I'm like, yeah, Florida's pretty cool. I get it. I still like Miami because I just like the fact that they're just so cool. Never been a much of a Florida State sympathizer. I will go to Tallahassee if I win the Florida lottery because you have to take the prize. You have to go get to the Capitol. I always tell people, if you see me post Tallahassee, you're not going to see much of me after that. But it was just Nigel Mansell. Like I'm not a Formula One fan by no means, okay? But I grew up on Senna, and then there was Senna was not an interesting personality.
Right.
This man had absolute. By the way, vanilla. I like vanilla. I love vanilla. Do not dishonor vanilla by calling him vanilla. This man was not. This is not. I'm sorry, Ayrton Senna. There's nothing on record of this man saying anything interesting, which is it's just a lot of Brazilian Formula One drivers follow that. Nothing. There's it was just a man of like he let the driving do the talking. Right. Just very much. But then Alan Prost, Nigel Mansell, I'm looking back. I was like, no, I appreciate you.
Right.
You need a bad boy. That's why even the Canes back when I was young was like, that's a little too much. Like, hell no. That's great. Especially if you keep beating up on Florida State. But it's like I admired that now. I look back and I was like, man, those Knicks were something, weren't they?
That's right.
And I hated them because I was a Jordan fan all the way. A very special moment when I was in Madison Square Garden because that to me it was like I was like in awe, like I was like walking around.
It's one of the spots I still need to get to.
It's insane because when you're there, you look at the ceiling and it's like, this is the Garden, and then there was no foreign TV broadcast. So when there's no foreign TV broadcast, I'm there in the octagon, and I'm like, I'm sitting right here in the middle of this temple of sports. To each their own. Some people love music, they love the arts. Like to me, is sports, and I'm like, now it's back to Delta Center in Salt Lake City, but it was vivid for a while, and I was there, and I was like, telling people, do you understand? This is where Jordan stole the ball and had the shot.
Right.
They're like, holy shit. Yes. Like it's hollow ground here, people. Yeah. This is like, it's the opposite of like an Indian burial like territory. Like this is good stuff. This is good vibes. And then I was walking around the New Yorkers in the Madison Square Garden, and it's just like, man, the Garden. It's like, isn't it beautiful? So, yeah. This is the place where Jordan scored like 55 a couple times. They're like, got pissed.
Yeah. That's not the memory that they want to talk about.
But it's a temple, and I highly recommend that you go to a car there because there's a vibe.
Yeah, it's on the list. It's certainly on the list. My boss Tom Gerbasi would very much like me to come out to one of those shows. So maybe we'll make that happen one of these years. Not making any guarantees. You mentioned the 90s Knicks. Shout outs to Chris Herring. Phenomenal book about those 90s Knicks. If you haven't read it, go read it. Or next time we cross paths, I will put it in your hand because it's here on a bookshelf somewhere.
They were fascinating.
They were amazing. And the book is terrific. Chris is a terrific writer. We have been doing this for over 2 hours now, and I greatly appreciate your time. I will let you go on a technical question because this is something that fascinates me. I love words. I love people's processes. What is sort of your process for going into translation, interpretation, both pre-getting in there and then in there on the moment? You mentioned a little bit, you do read lips. It is also listening, obviously. What's sort of the way you work through all of what you do? Because on camera, it's seamless.
Just the part that means the final product, which always has to be polished, has been coming in okay. It's first of all trying to understand exactly what happened. I go through like an tailor tape before I just look at, I go back to my notes like, okay, this is when they won. This is the person that call out. What is the ranking? If the athlete wins the probably call within the ranking. Okay, he's number 15. I should be ready. That has not happened. But if for some reason someone asks the question in the octagon and goes, I don't know, man, who's like 14, 15, things like that's before somebody has the notes, I probably will know because I just try to memorize just to say, hey, is that who wants to fight? Okay, yeah, that name, just in case the name is not there. Because you don't want to screw up the name. That's the one thing that I try to, because if they call out something, I don't want to be the guy that like, oh, he didn't even know the name of like somebody. So I look at those notes. I look at the weight as well, because they might shift weights. It's just, listen, no one needs to know everything at all times. You just need to not even pretend to know. Can you know what you need to know at that moment? That's what really important. When someone mentions weights, listen, I'm not a machine that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius and pounds to kilograms. So when someone just yells out 66, 70, 77, I'm like, I got this on the pounds. But not because I'm converting, because I remember the divisions that this person might fight. So that's just what I try to know, is that basic. Okay, I try to prepare myself in that sense. Sometimes it's very clear cut. This fighter's just starting the career, whatever. Not going to say a name, but when it gets to rankings, you want to know that. Once you get to the octagon, you listen in, you read the lips, and this happened actually. I blanked out a little bit in the backstage because I was doing helping Zach with social. Interview for .com, and Michael Morales went off on something, and I had to stop. It wasn't live, obviously, and I'm like, okay, and then I went off because I needed to know the starting point. And Michael is very convinced, like he talks a lot about different subjects. Like I need to have a starting point, and the starting point is like from there I go. So I have to have that first starting from, because I'm not saying that everything else after that is BS. That is my cue. I'm not going to make up stuff after that. But that is like, that your memory, if it doesn't betray you, like, remember what he said after that. So that's a good start. So the first sentence, first words, they're important. And because of the fact that I'm a visual person and I've been working in the corporate world forever, I put it on a PowerPoint. I put it in a visual PowerPoint. And I try to put down bullets. And if a person says a name or words that matter, I put it in bold because they're being repeating a lot. And if it's a name of a person, I try to put it in capital letters. That is my process. And if I look back, and if I hopefully get through the slides without screwing up, I'll get to the end of the slide and I'll throw all the bullet points. And that's what I'm trying to do in a microcosm. I just try to put it into a visual. And what I realized when I was explaining myself about this is that it asked about the acting and everything else. It makes it so much easier when you're being that person, because you're just trying to internalize. And basically, I just watched a scene, and I'm just trying to redo it as if I was acting as that person. It makes it easier to remember. This is the like a part. I'm doing a reading for a part, and I need to be that fighter for that side. It just helps me memorize. I'm not doing it because like, oh, he wants to show off or something. No,
right.
It's just like, there you go. And the mannerism, like sometimes it clicks that when he did this, he said something, and it's just a cue. Everything is like cues, so you don't screw up. Hopefully, you don't screw up.
Well, everybody screws up every once in a while, but you haven't had many screw ups. It has been a terrific 3 years. It has been a terrific 2 hours and change. I greatly appreciate your time. Before I officially let you go, let people know where they can follow the travels of Fabiano Buskei.
First of all, apparently I'm in the Apex every weekend, so just I'll be there doing something, or my voice will be heard.
Stop by the UFC Apex.
I had eight. No, I had like 8 fighters this past week. I had 8 fights out of the 12. So that was a busy one. It's just my name. I have a Twitter account that I post one thing or another. I post stories on Instagram when I'm there. It's the same thing. It's just my name. Hit me up. And if I don't get to you, believe me, because sometimes like there's a lot of people trying to sell me crypto. There's a lot of people trying to validate
wanting you to be spokespeople for their sunglass company. That's the one I'm getting currently.
Oh, really?
That, and they want my dog to represent their brand.
You got it better than me. All I get is like it's funny because
I
it's
also get a lot of foreign women that want to be my partner.
oh yeah, they just moved into town, right?
Yeah.
And they really wanted
Yeah.
to know me. Yeah, I got that. Like it's funny, like 5 women just moved into town this past
At
week.
least
I was
now
like,
they
oh,
call me handsome. That was nice this morning. Hey, handsome, how are you? And I was
it's a
like,
good hey.
it
I have
feels good.
proof.
Feels good.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I get that too. But it's basically just it's a you can hit me up, and if I don't get to you, is because there's a lot, and I have a job, and I try to stay off of stuff and answer. And I've tried to help people connecting with other things. I don't have access. So people understand. Like I don't have access to fighters. I'm not UFC HR. I but I'm just there to thank you for the compliments. A lot of people reach out just to say nice things, and I just think even like through LinkedIn, and they've said those things. It's a pleasure. It's been again a pleasure and a privilege these past 3 years, and it's been a pretty cool conversation. I mean, I talk a lot, as that's sorry.
No, that's the purpose of this.
But thank you. Thank you
That's
for
what this
giving me
is
the
for.
platform to talk. I just want to share because I've been very thankful for all and grateful for all the help that the people remembering me, and that remembering me and when it mattered and giving me opportunities just like this. And by the way, Vancouver is a beautiful city, and you have it made when you actually look out the window. And if I were you, same thing.
When
I
we're
would look
done, I'm just gonna pull the shade up and look out at my mountain.
as exact
That's all I'm
my
gonna do.
mount. I
My
love my
mountain.
mount.
My
I love
mountain. Mount
yeah.
Baker, my mountain, out front of
There
my
you go.
window. All
That's
day.
it. And beautiful place. Hope to see you on the road sooner than later. Hope you
Hopefully.
hope you pick one of the good places. We're going everywhere, and let's keep in touch. This was pretty cool.
Follow him on Instagram. The stories are worth it. You get good shots. You get behind the scenes. It's great times. I wanted to do this long before we met. I wanted to find a way to reach out. When we met, this became automatic. Within instances, it was like, oh, I've known this dude forever.
Yes, it did feel like it when you were.
It
It was pretty awesome. It was pretty
all
awesome.
the
And I
things
wish
you
I had.
see from this man on television, the genuineness, the earnestness, the emotion that he conveys, it is real. It isn't an act. It isn't performative. He is this good dude, as Dan Hellie said. Great dude, great translator. Thank you for doing this. For Fabiano, I am Spencer. This has been a conversation with. We'll see you next week.